right, welcome everybody. We are at the Marion Homeschool Assistance Program with student council members as we begin recording some new episodes of our Marion Homeschool Assistance Program Student Council Mental Health Podcast. That's a good name right there. This is also the first time that we've ever not only done audio but also video. And I just want to point out I am wearing a Red Wings cap because we're recording this on the opening day for the Detroit Red Wings hockey season. So, okay, that's the end of that discussion. So this is our first recording of this semester for podcasts. And one of the things we did at the beginning of the year was we had a freshman event. We invited freshmen and their parents to come to the school. We did some interactive stuff, had some discussions. And we thought we would follow up that with a kind of a freshman mental health, freshman adjustment tips podcast. Now, we don't have any freshmen on student council, so we invited some student council members who have been freshmen and are no longer. That means they're successful freshmen. And we're going to see if we can come up with some things that would be helpful to freshmen and their parents. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves and we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Gigi. I'm a senior at MHSAP, and I've been the student council for the past 2 years.
My name is Abby. I'm also a senior at MHSAP, and I've also been with student council the last 2 years.
I'm Bennett. I'm a sophomore, and this is my first year in student council.
Cool. So basically we have two old ladies, wrinkles. You walk with a cane now, right, Gigi?
Yes, I actually do.
Yeah, you've been around so long. And one sophomore. So your memories of being a freshman are a little more distant. Mm-hmm. But I guess the question we want to start off with is, what do you remember about that adjustment from junior high, 8th grade into high school? And what were some things that, maybe some challenges you faced or some things that helped you? Hints, anything that you've got?
Well, I know I was coming with my only interaction kind of being through mock trial, and a lot of my friends were still in middle school. So I think that was something valuable is, having those activities. I was in play, I was in mock trial, having those activities where I could get friends who were already in high school, who had already been freshmen, who are freshmen currently. And a lot of those friendships have lasted me till now, and I'm sure will continue going on.
I know for me, my freshman year is probably my worst year of high school. But don't let that discourage you. It's an awkward phase in everybody's life. I would say it's like you're freshly out of middle school. You're entering this new world of you have to act a little bit different. The freshmen are always, picked on. It's still a thing that happens today. But I think my biggest helps were having close friends that I knew I could rely on. And a little hint that I'll give you guys, listen to your parents. Listen to your mom. She knows a lot more than you do. I wish I listened to my mom a lot more in high school. I also wish I listened to my older brother who had been through high school a lot longer than I had. And he actually did help me a lot throughout high school. He put me in these activities and helped me make friends and things like that. So just listen to people that have been through the same experiences as you. They have a lot of knowledge that you do not have, and they're extremely helpful.
That's good. Well, Bennett, you're the freshest. Freshest freshman, sophomore. What was your experience like as a freshman, and what was useful to you?
So I was already fairly involved in the homeschool as a middle schooler. I was in the musical, I did classes and everything, so I kind of knew people heading into high school. So for me, the biggest hurdle would probably have been, honestly, just kind of growing up a little bit. It's, like Gigi, like you said, it's a new world that you gotta get into, and it's not that you should not act like yourself, but maturity is a pretty important thing to develop.
Okay, let me press on that because I think it is natural that people are going to mature, but there's also, I seem to hear you saying, but there's also some choices you can make in that. Like you can be aware of the fact that that's happening and make some choices. Can you give me an example of what that might look like or some things that people might want to think about?
Well, I'm not really a good example of maturity, but I guess quieting down a bit, being a bit more socially aware. Like when I was in elementary school or middle school, I just kind of played tag wherever I was. That was just my go-to. And
Did you say play tag?
Tag is pretty fun.
That's awesome. That's so good.
But yeah, now if it's, at something like a dress rehearsal or regionals for mock trial or something like that, something important, learning to just kind of lock in and focus was a pretty important thing for me. That was something I had to develop.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great example. You guys, what do you like? That idea of moving from what you were to what you're being. Like, what were some of the challenges you guys remember?
I was actually I wouldn't say I was mature in middle school. I was just very quiet and drawn to myself. So I actually had to push myself out there to make my friends, to participate in those classes, rather than being as quiet as I was in middle school.
I think for me, friendships were a big thing that I put a lot of weight on. So when in 7th grade, a lot of my friends were moving away, and I was just kind of left alone. Like 3 of my very good female friends moved away, and so 7th grade I was just kind of left alone. I didn't have any friends, and then I was kind of forced to make friends with people who weren't the greatest examples. And I think and then they weren't my friends in high school. It was like I had a short period of time that I was friends with them, and then it was like once we got into high school, it was like we aren't friends anymore. And so I was kind of left without friends, and so I just kind of clung to the weirdest senior I could. I met this senior. She was really great and she was really nice, but I would not suggest making friends with seniors as a freshman. It's completely different, and they leave the next year, and you'll probably never see them again. So then again, you're left without friends. So I think I had to learn lessons where it's like, you need to make friends your age in the same activities that you are, that are children and kids that your parents would approve of.
just to make it a little bit easier to navigate.
Yes, yeah, it's a lot easier to navigate high school when you listen to people that are older and wiser than you are.
What were some of the academic stresses that you experienced as a change? So middle school is one thing. High school does become something different, even for homeschool kids, and especially as you start taking classes at the high school. What were some of the academic challenges, and what were some things that helped?
Definitely the workload just gets a lot bigger. If like one of the most important skills you can learn is how to study effectively. Just because you're going to be doing a lot more in high school than you were in middle school. Activities, extracurriculars start taking up more time. They're a lot more, you have to be a lot more committed to them. School gets harder. And that's all good. It's all fun. It's challenges. It's good to overcome them. But it is something that you do have to overcome. And skills like studying or just being able to focus, honestly, is really important.
Yeah, that's great. You guys?
I was a big procrastinator. I still struggle with procrastinating, but I think that was something that, it's like I went from middle school not having a very big workload, pretty in between, and then I just jumped into high school. You can't procrastinate as much in high school. There's a lot more deadlines. There's a lot more serious work that's going to affect you when it comes to your GPA and what colleges you're going to get into and things like that. So my freshman year, I didn't take it quite as seriously. And I really, really had to make up for it my sophomore, my junior, and my senior year.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. Studying, you need to learn how to study well, put away distractions so you can actually focus, because otherwise you end up procrastinating, and then you end up losing on sleep and getting way behind, and it's just not a good position to be in. So definitely learn how to study and then get it done as soon as possible so you're not stressing over it for the rest of the week, the rest of the day, however long it is until that deadline.
Yeah. Learning the skill of managing your time and your resources and your energies, those are all really important things. Who helped you with that? Or did you just have to figure it out yourselves?
I think I kind of had to figure it out myself, but I also did not listen to my mom. So I think my mom was trying to help me, but I didn't listen. I'm just saying, guys, your mom 90% of the time wants the best for you. And she knows what she's talking about. Please listen to her.
This is so good. That's a whole nother podcast. But this is so good. Listen to your mother. That's gonna
Mother
be
knows best.
That will be an episode that we're gonna do. That's so good. Anybody else? Other resources that were helpful to you?
Not doing great is generally very helpful. It teaches you that you actually need to put in the work. Bad grades are a very good teacher, but it's way better to learn before you get those bad grades. So, yeah, I think I was also someone who kind of learned by themselves, but I think that would definitely... I had a fear of, like, failing, so I knew I had to get it done by the deadline. I would procrastinate till then and stress, but I would get it done.
Yeah. Anything that helped you?
Well, I had like you said, I had a summer class this summer actually. It was Kirkwood class, and it was kind of my first experience with like a real school deadline, because I'm homeschooled. I can just say, Mom, hey Mom, I've got cross country practice. Can we push back this test for a little bit so that I can have a bit more time to study? And it'd be like, okay, you can work your schedule. So I missed the assignment. I wasn't able to get, it was like a discussion, so I wasn't able to even get partial credit on it. And having that happen was kind of like tough. That was the tough love I needed. It was, oh shoot, I need to actually, get my stuff done.
Yeah, that's really good. There's a theme that's coming through all of this, which is there are some things you need to work on. But we don't get better at things we're not good at unless we do the things we're not good at. Right? Mm-hmm. If it's time management, if it's, not procrastinating, which is another version of that, if it's organizing your time so you get good sleep, if it's, honestly, if it's going into social situations that you're uncomfortable with, if you don't do those things, you'll never get good at them. You'll continually be driven back into yourself. And I think that's a really good theme. One of the things, and this is... we don't have time for a full expose on this, but one of the things that's happening as you're moving from being a child to being an adult is this period called adolescence. And we have neurological changes, and our brains move from sort of concrete to abstract. That's way, 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 way too broad a brush. And when our brains go to abstract, we start thinking about our thinking. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Whereas you just barely think when you're a kid, right? But you really can ruminate on things. And one of the things that happens in the world we live in is that because of the anxieties that go with kind of growing up and the increased pressure, sometimes people can get trapped inside with anxiety that gets shown on the outside as something else. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so a mental health hack that I want to ask you guys about, if you use this or if it was a part of your experiences, did you have things on the inside you never told anybody that motivated some things on the outside that ended up causing problems? Is that that's such a... You're shaking your head, Gigi. Just jump in. You got a story already. Aside from, we know about your mom, but yeah, the other stuff.
I struggled a lot with my mental health my freshman year. Losing friends, not doing the best things. I was constantly online. COVID was the peak of my freshman year.
Right.
I was going from being 8th grade. COVID happened, stopped my 8th grade year, and then I moved into freshman year 2020. So, isolated. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I didn't talk to my mom about it when I should have, and I didn't really have a lot of friends. And even the friends I did have were distant. I had my very close friend, who's still a very close friend, my cousin, but we couldn't see each other very often because of COVID. And so I had all this hurt and like I was also being really bullied actually. And I had all this like stuff, it was on my back, and I didn't talk to anybody about it. Not even my best friend, nobody. And I should have talked to my mom, who was right there. I should have talked to my best friend. I should have even talked to my sisters, who were right, like, at my disposal. And I didn't talk to anybody about it. And that caused a lot of problems for me my freshman year. It led into my sophomore year. And it's even something that I still struggle with now. But I have the ability to talk to people about it now. And it's so relieving. That stress that is on your back, it becomes a burden that you do not have to carry alone. It becomes something that you can take to Christ, something you can take to your parents, your siblings, your friends. And obviously, don't dump it all on them. That's not their job. But it's always extremely valuable to talk verbally about the problems that you are facing alone. Because if you are not working through these problems with other people, you're never going to get out of that pit.
Yep. Anybody want to? I just want to. That was kind of hard. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. And we're running out of time here, so I think just to kind of summarize that whole point, we talked about the fact that as you go into your freshman year, there are some things you do need to do and challenge yourself. But when you do, it may come out because you've had some difficult situations, but you should use those difficult situations to motivate you. A bad grade experience or even a bad friend experience can motivate you to make choices for yourself. But when it comes to emotional stuff, one of the most dangerous things that anybody can do is to keep everything inside. And here's just a mental health thing for everybody, but as you're moving into your freshman year, the emotions are much higher. Perhaps because of the social pressures, because of the growing up pressures, all those kinds of things. If you've got stuff that's swirling around inside your head and you don't talk to anybody about it, that gets hidden in the darkness. And in a way, just like a little kid is afraid of the monster in the closet because the closet is dark and you can't really see, that monster can control you until you turn on the light. And talking to people about the things that scare you in your set. Because, man, unless you're not a regular person, you've got some dark thoughts sometimes. It's like, I cannot believe that is in my head. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I'm even thinking that. When we're able to find people we can share that with, what we discover is two things. When we turn the lights on, the darkness doesn't have as much power. So when we actually talk about things we're keeping hidden, they lose their power. And we find out that a lot of times people will go, oh, wow, I've thought that too. And we're not alone. And I don't think there's probably a better thing we can say in the mental health world than to discover that you're not alone, that other people have thought those things. And that, as we like to say, there's nothing wrong with you that's not wrong with everybody else. We're all in this together. So this is great. Thank you, guys. This is the Marian Homeschool Assistance Student Council Mental Health Podcast. And if you are interested in any of the stuff we're doing, you can check out our website, which is, Marian Homeschool Assistance Program. Find it on Google. I don't know what the actual. Do you guys know what it is?
It's a bit.ly. It's like,
I think it's MHSAP Student Council. MHSAP is capitalized, and so is the S and the C.
Awesome. And you can find us on Instagram and just call the school or email one of the student council members, whatever. We would love to talk with you. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next podcast.